Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production by iHeartRadio.
For today's activists around the world, we are doing an organization. And that's not strange for us. I know. But this one is because they made a pretty interesting decision. And we wanted to talk about it. I did go back and forth about whether or not to do this as a Monday Mini, but I decided to do it as activists around the world because I think we need to talk about this as an actual stance and activism. So we're talking about the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or the ACOG. So what we are specifically talking about is an announcement that happened this month, August of 2025, that one of the largest OBGYN organizations in the U.S. has rejected federal funding as a response to the current governmental policies. So they have decided to skip away from receiving any funds on their own free will. So I feel like that's really significant in this conversation. And it seems that they may be one of the first medical organizations to have done so, and it's sparking a lot of conversation. So again, I say this as like an alleged, because I think people in organizations and news organizations and fact checkers are trying to actually go back through lots of history to see if this has been done before. But as it stands, as of today, again, August 5th, 2025, they're kind of at the first to reject and do such a thing. So again, before we talk about the significance of this, let's talk about the organization in itself. So this is from their site, acog.org, quote, founded in 1951. ACOG is the premier professional membership organization for obstetricians and gynecologists. The college produces practice guidelines for healthcare professionals and educational materials for patients, provides practice management and career support, facilitates programs and initiatives to improve women's health, and advocates for members and patients. And on their site, they go on to state their mission and vision and core values, which talks about bettering families and communities that are seeking OBGYN care with accessibility to all. And that is a very big point of importance for them. And in their core values, they list respect and equity as a part of that. And with that, they also talk about their inclusion of DEI in their practice. And they are standing firm in that, which is nice to see. And though they aren't a perfect organizations, I think when I was going through trying to figure out exactly who they were, what they were doing, they did have some controversies, and they did come back with like, this is our response to this and this and this. They have worked to push back against this administration specifically, especially when it comes to the downfall of the Roe v. Wade. So they were real upfront about how they felt about that, as well as the attack on reproductive care at large. So in 2017, they were outspoken about the way the government rescinded a prior ruling that have held, actually, women have more access to affordable health care that is specific to Title X. We've talked about this before. Go back and listen to some of our other episodes. But at the time of the rescinding of the bill, it cut funding to help people with birth control, breast cancer screening, and even STD and STI testing and counseling. Yes, that was a really targeted attack against Planned Parenthood. If you don't remember, we were very sad, and it was caused chaos, and it still has caused chaos. And it should be noted that Title X has never been able to be used for abortion, which is kind of how they were going after all of this and saying this doesn't need to happen. This is against the law. You're killing babies. All that bullshit rhetoric that we are very tired of. But they were really at the forefront of talking about this and how they were very much against this and what this could do to healthcare, what this could do to women and those who need these types of screening. So it was a lot. So they've been there. They've been there. In 2013, they had a whole other article and whole other publishing about needing more Medicaid access. I'm telling you, like the things that I've read, they've definitely been on point. And with the current state of the HHS and the government, the ACOG took a fairly significant stance in protesting against this administration. So this is from an Axios article. They say, quote, ACOG sent an email to members last week notifying them that it will stop accepting federal funding for current contracts. Quote, after careful deliberation, ACOG has made an organization-wide decision to stop accepting federal funding for all ACOG programs and activities for current contracts, the organization said in a statement shared with Axios. They go on, recent changes in federal funding laws and regulations significantly impact ACOG's program goals, policy positions, and ability to provide timely and evidence-based guidance and recommendations for care. We remain fully committed to this critical work and will allocate our own resources to continue it in a way that is centered on patients' needs and grounded in evidence. The organization will continue to engage with the federal government on policy advocacy, ACOG said. So they're still working with the government. They do talk about that and that they will try to work with the Trump administration, but they don't want to be tied down by those funds. So there are several aspects to this decision. Again, it makes it really impactful. And one of the most noted things is their response to the HS and Secretary Kennedy's current policies and implementations. Again, from the Axios article, quote, ACOG is one of a few medical associations vocally pushing back against President Trump and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s health policy shifts. Healthcare during pregnancy has become a flashpoint. Kennedy has removed the recommendations that pregnant people get COVID-19 vaccinations, and a recent advisory panel to the Food and Drug Administration cast doubt on the safety of antidepressants during pregnancy. ACOG said afterward that the composition of the panel was, quote, alarmingly unbalanced, and that there's a robust evidence showing the medications are safe during pregnancy. The American Academy of Pediatrics has also publicly opposed recent HHS actions. The group boycotted a June meeting of Kennedy's hand-picked vaccine advisory committee, saying a June purge of the panel's 17 advisory compromised its credibility. So they were definitely going after this, and they're making a stance because of all these types of changes. Something of note as well is that they have been very vocal about expanding healthcare access for all women, including expanding and protecting Medicaid for women. Their ACOG Committee on Healthcare for Underserved Women, wrote this opinion, quote, Medicaid, the state federal health insurance program for individuals with low incomes, serves as a safety net for women throughout the lifespan. Historically, expansions of Medicaid have been associated with improved access to healthcare, less delay in obtaining healthcare, better self-reported health, and reductions in mortality. This committee opinion has been revised to emphasize the importance of Medicaid to improve women's health, the history and growth of Medicaid, including the ACA's Medicaid expansion, and the mechanisms by which changes to the Medicaid program can occur. It includes relevant examples for each. So some of the recommendations and examples they include are protections for Medicaid benefits, extending pregnancy-related Medicaid coverage, and of course, it opposes decreasing Medicaid services for women's health. So they're doing a lot, and I think this original article was written, I want to say in like 2007, so about 20 years ago, and they just re-amped it because they're like, no, really, we've been studying this for years. We know what we're talking about. They need more services, not less, which we know is not happening. And if you're wondering, the response from the administration ranges from the president is protecting people from unlawful policies like DEI, which in one article does talk about the fact that they being ACOG, was not accepting funding because of this specifically. They're saying, no, we're going to keep our DEI. It's important. And also the administration going, oh, good, they're saving the government money. And not that our listeners need this reminder, but no, these grant cuts are not giving us money back. That's not how this works. They're redistributing it to things like funding war, funding private equities and corporations. And I know, again, I'm preaching to the choir, so I know no one really needs to know that, but just a quick reminder if someone were to pop in and be like, what's this about? And they don't know what we're about. There you go. And I haven't read if any other organizations are taking these types of stands. Obviously, we did read one that said that they actually protested, but I don't know if they're like, no, I don't want the money. But it is interesting to note who is doing what during this weird, like, apocalyptic filled time. And so we do want to talk about the fact that that is really important. Now, I think they said they receive around $900,000 in grants. So no word as to how they're reshifting and trying to find funds that they were depending on this fund. So these funds specifically. So it is something that we need to know. But it is also good to know that organizations aren't being bought out and they realize how dangerous these policies really are.
Yeah. And listeners, as always, please let us know if you have any organizations or any other examples of this happening, any thoughts about this. You can email us at hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at MomStuffPodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.